How do you do, Bill?
Well, hello, Tom.
Hey, did you hear the great news? Frankenstein Minute has been nominated for a Rondo Award for Best Podcast.
The what has been nominated?
Frankenstein Minute, you know, the podcast we've been doing every week for over 180 episodes, you know, for the last, 3.5 years?
Oh, Frankenstein Minute. I'm sorry, I thought you said Frankenstein's in It, the podcast where we discuss movies that feature actors who portrayed Victor or Henry Frankenstein.
That's not a thing.
No. Well, that's why I was confused.
Are you not excited about the Rondo nomination?
Well, it is truly an honor to be nominated. But to be honest, do we really stand a chance of winning?
Well, sure we do. Frankenstein Minute is more popular than ever. And if every one of our listeners sent an email to taraco@aol.com with the subject line 2022 Rondo Awards, and in the body of the email include their own name and their choice of Frankenstein Minute as the best podcast, well, I think we're a shoo-in this year.
That's an oddly specific thing to say. You're recording this, aren't you?
I record everything.
Oh, Christ. You didn't record our conversation about the counterfeit vaccination cards, did you?
Again, just send an email to taraco@aol.com with the subject line 2022 Rondo Awards, and in the body of the email, include your own name and your choice of Frankenstein Minute as the best podcast.
That conversation was entirely speculative. I was neither advocating for nor indicating support for any type of illegal action whatsoever.
Sure.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of
the Son of Frankenstein. This one is probably just as bad as his father. Good morning, son.
Well, hello.
My son, you have inherited the fortune of the Frankensteins. I trust you will not inherit their fate.
By heaven, I think you're a worse fiend than your father. What are you going to do about it? There's a monster afoot and you know it.
Well, we've warned you.
You've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the universal Frankenstein film series minute by minute. I'm Bill Evenson,
and I'm
author of...
go ahead.
Author of... what's it called? Author of... look at the size of that thing. Humorous guide to something Doctor Who something.
Can I ask first what that's in reference to? Look at the size of that thing.
He does actually say it. Jamie says it in the Two Doctors. So it's one of those things that's like a cliche that the Doctor would say.
Okay.
Look at the size, because so the guy who played Doctor Who's companion in the late '60s, his name is Fraser Hines, and he goes to all the Doctor Who conventions he can.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably see him. I probably saw him last week, and he likes to tell the story that as a cliche that the Doctor would say, "Look at the size of that thing, Jamie," or no, I'm sorry, he would say, "Look at the size of that thing, Doctor," and the Doctor would say, "Yes, it is a big one, Jamie," and that was like a cute little
kind of little running
gag thing. But it does actually happen in one episode.
Okay,
that's it. That's all I got.
Kind of sorry I asked.
Yeah. Join the club.
did I mention...
It actually happens in Star Wars, right? Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah,
Cut the chatter, Red 2. You fuck. Fucking A, Red 2.
Did I mention that I'm Tom Lang and you join us for minute 39 of 39's Universal production, whatever the fuck this... Yeah, no, it didn't. Kind of anticlimactic.
Came off weird.
The timing was wrong. Minute 39 of Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
More medical nonsense as Wolf continues to pretend to examine the monster.
And so one thing that happens during this is the timpani starts here. And this is important to me because it's very obviously reminiscent of the laboratory music in Bride. So you've got that heartbeat thing going on. And the music isn't entirely dissimilar too. It's got that sort of...
Yeah, sort of... Sort of the flowing strings.
I can't remember the Bride one now. All I can remember is what we just watched. But
well, the Bride one is that.
Okay, yeah, exactly. It's very similar idea. A soft melody. What is it called? It doesn't resolve. It's supposed to be so, I can't think of the word, stressful. But where you're anticipation. Kind of an anticipation. Like, ooh, look what's happening here.
Happening.
And then we did it last movie. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that idea here.
Yeah.
Considerable osteodermia in the frontal region.
Yep.
Yeah, I have that, but my doctor, he says it's completely normal. No, I don't know.
Wow. Well, you know, since Wolf is actually poking around on the monster's ridiculously prominent brow, it actually makes sense here.
Yeah, osteodermia is a hard tumor
Yep.
of bone-like structure developing on a bone.
Yeah.
So he's poking on the monster's brow. Yeah, which is clearly, so again,
So this one actually makes sense.
matches up perfectly.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that roughly they kind of match.
I mean, he's looking at his eye, and he talks about an eye condition, so sure.
Right.
But again,
some thought put
I
into some of this.
still take issue to the mental abnormality.
The mental abnormality.
Looking at somebody's eyeball.
Bit out of left field.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah, he kind of. It kind of just seems like he just threw that in. Like, also, he's ugly. I don't like him.
Mark Sclerotasia. What a dick.
Yeah. Exactly. Mark Sclerotasia. I fucking hate people that have that.
Fucking dink.
Yeah, he's a dink. He's also a dink. Get this down, Benson. He's a dink.
There's a word
Did you say dink, son?
that needs to come back in that regard.
Oh yeah, it's never left.
No,
never. Dink has always
Dink
been
is a good one. Yeah, we get another weird close-up of Igor.
Yeah,
and this is where he looks like he's either stoned or.
Is this where? Okay, because I have it for later, but definitely.
Just received a sharp blow to
I
the
would
head.
disagree with you. I think that's later. I think what happens now is you can see Igor and Benson, and they couldn't care less. This is where they're like sort of bored, like, whoa, God, how long are we going to do this for? I think it's later that it looks like he's.
Well, then because I put it here, so maybe I was.
I don't know. Maybe
anyway.
I got it out of order too. So then he says, apparently these are the exterior.
Before that,
Excellent.
we were talking about these close-ups and stuff, and I was going to mention it last week, and you said not to, so I'm going to do it now.
Excellent.
In terms of getting these close-ups of Lugosi and when in the schedule they were shot, I assume most of the time what they'll do is shoot the master shot, which is the wide shot, and then go in for medium and close shots after.
Pretty standard procedure.
Way to do it, yeah.
Because it's if you go in for your close-up, you don't need to pay Basil Rathbone if you're shooting Bela Lugosi. You
Right.
You
can send him home.
back to his trailer or whatever.
Back to the 20th Century Fox lot to shoot Haunted the
Yeah,
Baskervilles.
apparently shoot. No, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say no, it's Adventure Zone, but that is second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. Of course you're right.
Well, just a little anecdotally, you familiar with Laurel and Hardy shorts where there's when something happens, there's an exasperated shot of Oliver Hardy looking into the camera. And Stan Laurel knew that Babe Hardy could not wait to get out to the golf course. While there's still light, he had to go out and get in around a golf. So he would wait and shoot those at the end of the day where Babe was just like, I gotta fucking go, man. So it was real exasperation.
So that exasperation is real?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And when you say Laurel thought that, was he directing them?
Stan was the driving force. I mean, Stan was the...
Okay, so if it says director...
He's the guy who said action and cut, basically.
Okay.
You know, anybody asked anything about what they were doing creatively, it was always ask Stan.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Which is why
an
I think
interesting duo in film history for so many reasons.
I think that's why I feel like Stan Laurel deserves to be up there with like Chaplin and Keaton.
Mm-hmm. That's not controversial,
in terms of, you know, a film genius.
They're the only comedy duo that everybody agrees made a seamless transition from silent to sound.
Yep.
Also, they both had careers before they even worked together.
Yeah, they had long careers before they worked together.
They were. It seems impossible to even imagine how those guys came together and became so seamless. It seems like they
always existed
like
together.
Abbott and Costello doesn't really work with Abbott or with Costello. Having said that, I guess it does in that the one where they're
the Time of Their Lives. Yeah.
Time of Their Lives. I guess they are kind of separate.
They are.
So I guess it does work.
But Lou made a film without Bud called The 30-Foot Bride of Candy Rock, and it doesn't work.
It sounds magnificent.
Oh no!
Did they then get back together, or
no? I think that was after The Mummy, and what was the last one they did? Dance with Me, Henry.
I have the stupidest understanding of Lou and Costello because all I really remember about them was in that movie where Buddy Hackett,
Buddy Hackett and Harvey Korman,
and Harvey Harvey Korman, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I
What
watched
kind
it
of
at
casting?
the time.
Yeah, I did too.
So the
Because
last,
I had read the book that it
but
was
I only
based on.
watched it at the time. So my knowledge is from whenever that was, 75 or whatever.
Yeah, because I had that book.
Okay.
It's called Bud and Lou, and so was the movie.
Okay.
And it's long since been debunked as a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
But it presents that they hated each other and fought, and both families have said, well, yeah, I mean they had their disagreements.
This is like a theme, I guess, almost in everything. We talked about it just a couple of weeks ago. The big one is, of course, Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, right?
Right.
If there is a disagreement, if there is a misunderstanding of any kind, or any kind of,
Disharmony.
parting, disharmony, of course that's going to be the story. That's how it's going to play out.
Because that's
What's funny is this is what, in some sense, I think it's now gone the other direction. The big Beatles Get Back thing that came out now months ago. We've now swung in the other direction. That time period in the movie Let It Be is the Beatles breaking up. We all know that. But here's the thing. It's more or less true.
Yeah.
And so now that Peter Jackson's put out the 8 hours version of it where they love each other so much, it's important for Beatles scholarship, if that's a thing you give a shit about, to look at that and go, well, yeah, they did fight. And then the next day they played Get Back, and it was fucking amazing. But let's not forget, George quits the band, and then 9 months later the band's completely broken up. So there's a give and take. What we don't have is any kind of way to experience this with Bela and Boris.
Right.
Laurel and Hardy are strong together they seem to be equal contributors to me to a strong partnership. That's not the same with Bud and Lou. There's a difference to it.
There's a difference there, yeah.
Bud is supporting Lou, in my opinion.
He is, but I think Bud Abbott is a better actor and a better straight man than he ever gets credit for.
He is the
straight man.
Nobody's the straight man in Laurel and Hardy.
No.
Nobody's the straight man in Marx Brothers. No, let's take that back. Zeppo is essentially the straight man.
Zeppo essentially was.
That's why they fucking ditched him.
They didn't ditch him. He ditched them.
Yeah, I suppose that's right. None of it matters because Duck Soup is perfect the way
it is. That was the second VHS I ever bought.
The first was
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein,
we talked about
then
this,
Duck Soup.
And then Duck Soup, yeah. Paid
no idea. I have no idea.
Tons of money, because that was back when it was like $90 for a studio tape.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't doing that. But I do remember two of the earliest VHS tapes I bought, which would have been a decade after that probably, because I didn't buy a lot, was Son of Frankenstein and The Old Dark House.
See, when I got The Old Dark House, I had
ways.
I had to find I don't know where I found it, but it was a bootleg that was, I'm sure just a camera pointed at a screen from a 16mm print or something. It looked awful.
Yeah.
And sounded worse, but it was all I could find, and this was the late 80s. So I must have gone to like Film Facts or one of those that would have ads for stuff that wasn't commercially released, and just wrote to all of them and say, hey, do you have The Old Dark House?
And they all said no.
Finally got an answer back. Yeah, that's how I found like Horse Feathers, because for the longest time Horse Feathers was unavailable.
Interesting.
And I think it was because they were trying to find there's several minutes missing.
Okay.
And I think they were just trying to find it and realized, well, we're not going to, so put it out as is.
I now am thinking about it, and some of my other earlier VHSs would have been the Star Wars trilogy when that was still good. And Mystery Science Theater. They started putting on a lot of VHS.
Yeah, I never had the VHS. I started to get I have a lot of the DVDs.
Yeah,
and
that whole bottom of that shelf is all...
Yeah, and I'm just questioning, do I really want to keep them? Am I ever gonna...
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, apparently these are the exterior electrodes, the means by which my father inducted the vital energy into the body.
Apparently.
You were going to say that earlier.
Apparently my notes are the same as your notes.
Okay. This is the first time the electrodes are even referenced, let alone indicated what they were for.
Yeah.
Nobody has said anything about them.
Yep.
Jack Pierce, at this time, gave one of the first extensive interviews, and that's where we get, you've read it a million times, where he talks about, I did all this research and read that the easiest way to put in a brain is to cut the skull across, and it doesn't make any sense, because that would not make the top of the head flat.
Yeah, that doesn't change anything.
It would, if anything, it would be like 1/8 of an inch shorter, just because of the depth of the saw blade.
What?
What he's saying is you cut the top of the skull off, right?
Well, don't use your hands. You have to explain to the listeners.
I'm assuming what he's referring to is you cut a circumference of the skull.
Did you see the movie Hannibal?
Yeah.
So where he cuts the guy's head off,
basically.
he cuts Ray Liotta's top of his head off, and he feeds him his own brain.
Yes.
I love that movie. It's a good movie.
See,
I don't know why people shit on that
I don't know
movie.
why that is not as popular as Silence of the Lambs. I think it's just as good.
Only problem is what's her name? Jodie Foster didn't come back.
Right. Right.
But it's not even a big problem.
No, I don't think that. I think Julianne Moore, right?
Yeah,
she
she's
does just
fucking
as well.
fantastic.
Yeah,
She's fucking great.
Yeah.
And that year, I'm sorry, this is a bugbear with me.
This is fine.
That year, I watched the Oscars where the director of that film, I'm such an asshole. Ridley Scott sat and didn't come up as because he lost Best Director for his best film of that year, but it won Best Picture. And the producer said, "Ridley, come up." And he said, "No, he wouldn't come up. He sits there like this because he lost Best Director, even though the film was Best Picture." That film is Gladiator. Right. I didn't even fucking like that movie. That year he made Hannibal, which is a fucking great movie.
Fantastic.
It's fascinating to me how all this shit works.
Yeah.
But Ridley Scott didn't win Best Picture ever. Now he just makes garbage. He just keeps remaking
Aliens and
no
Blade
interest.
Runner.
Anyway, in the movie Hannibal, they just cut the top of the guy's head off, Ray Liotta, and that makes sense. You just, I'm doing it with my hands now.
See, it's hard not to.
Say halfway up your head, from your eyes to the top.
Yeah.
You just cut a line, and then rip the top off.
Cut the circumference around the head. Yeah, it's like a bowl.
Yeah, you just cut the little bowl off the top, and then you can get in there and put a brain in.
And scoop.
And you're saying that it makes no sense to have a flat top.
Because that's what Pierce said, that's the easiest way to do it. So that's what this guy was learning to be a surgeon, not a practice one. And
I guess I'm a dummy, because I'm on Pierce's side on this. I think it would be a little bit easier to have a little bit more room in there, to have a bigger...
but he didn't say that he built it up or anything. He just cut it off.
Oh, so I see. So it's more like, it's shorter, like a pork pie hat.
It should be a little shorter because of the width of the blade, not flat.
Okay.
But I think by the time you get to Bride, some of that is kind of rendered moot because you see the clamps and the wires and things. So it's like he rebuilt the skull slightly.
Okay.
And that makes more sense. But
why were we talking about this?
I don't even remember. Because the electrodes.
Oh, yeah.
But he said, those aren't bolts holding the head on. They're electrodes for conducting electricity into the body. And that makes perfect sense, but we never see any evidence of that in Frankenstein. There's nothing attached to them when the monster is brought to life.
Well, we don't see
what goes up on the roof, I guess. But,
yeah, we don't see. But
by the time of Abbott Lou Costello meet Frankenstein, they are actual alligator clamps holding.
Well, and
one of them pulls it right off.
Guy's got a ring that he.
Yeah.
It's a whole deal.
Different. It's a whole different.
But that was anything that comes after this, presumably comes from this. So. Mm-hmm. This is where it starts, and I like the idea that Pierce is confronted and has to explain that it's not holding his head on. Yeah. So the idea is that it's that's just one bar that goes all the way through.
Actually, there's an artist, and I'm going to rip him off because I can't afford to buy one. Here's what the skull of the monster would look like, and there's like a copper plate at the top. Makes perfect sense, and
because it's not a skull at that point, because you've got to build something.
And there's wires that go up and down, up into the brain and down into the body from the electrodes. They don't go. It doesn't bisect.
It doesn't
the neck.
go across. Okay.
And that makes sense to me because you'd want that surge of electricity to travel in very specific directions to jumpstart the heart, the brain.
Okay. When I was in electronics school, we're told specifically, if we see somebody getting electrocuted or whatever, use kick them. Don't push on them. What happens is if you touch one side of a strong electrical circuit and then the other side with your other hand,
you're completing the circuit.
Completing the circuit, and it goes across your heart. That's an actual thing that happens. Is your heart now becomes a part of that electrical circuit, and that's not good for you.
Yeah, clearly.
Very serious
yeah,
problem.
Clearly.
Because your body has electricity in it, and your heart doesn't like that very much when that gets jolted,
jumped up.
Unless it does like it, because as we've talked about, your heart
it loved it.
So it's interesting to me when you talk about that makes that makes sense. How you would put electricity into somebody's body on either side of their neck.
You wouldn't want it to jump across, is what you're saying.
Maybe you would.
I don't know.
Probably you would, I guess.
I don't know. I've never done this. We should actually try.
I think, yeah.
We owe it to the listeners to actually do this, what Henry did, just to see.
And I suppose you could make an argument that it has to be me, because you've already done it.
I've been there, done that, yeah. It's old.
It's old news for you. So what you're saying, and what I think the film is saying, is that these little pegs that are sticking out on either side of the neck of Boris Karloff are little pegs. They're an inch long. They're an inch and a half, 2 inches long. They don't go all the way through. They don't go deep.
Well, I can find you a picture, and if we remember, we could post it with the episode.
So you have a picture of what the pegs are?
I have a picture of what the skull that I'm talking about.
Oh, that thing.
But it shows you how in relation to the rest of the head, neck,
Right.
they are. So
Right. No, I think I've seen it.
Probably.
But I don't remember
I've
that
posted
part
it.
of it.
I know I've posted it a number of times.
Wow, I haven't seen this. That's something.
So I want one in the worst way, and I can't find an original one, so I'm going to
Jesus Christ.
rip the guy off and make my own.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we do have to post that.
Yeah.
God damn, that's great. I'd like one when you're...
Oh,
when
okay,
you're-
yeah.
If you get a chance.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem. Wolf kind of tugs on him.
Yeah, and it's clearly that they're just glued onto his neck.
But if I look at that picture, that would work the same.
But it would, yeah,
it would have movement.
That was where I was going.
Yeah. There's no reason to think that it's part of his skeleton in any way.
No.
It's loose inside there.
Yeah, the wires would.
You could pull one out. He wouldn't like that.
I don't think he'd be.
But
happy with
what is he gonna do? That
Yeah, he's fucking in a
jackass.
coma.
In a coma.
Dipshit. Yeah.
Those are the exterior electrodes.
And that's what they're always referred to as, and then is the first time it's spoken on screen, but they're always called electrodes. Even in Monster Mash, Bobby Pickett refers to them as electrodes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What?
Ghouls
does
all
he
came
say?
to my humble abode to get a jolt from my electrode. The fact that I know the fucking lyrics of Monster Mash, how sad is that?
This is such a
I couldn't
reference
tell
to
you-
Dino.
I couldn't
He's just
tell you
such a
my-
blatant call to Dino. Hey, you hung out with Dino.
I
How'd
did
that
hang out
go?
with Dino.
How
That
did
was great.
that go?
That was fun.
So
yeah, we went to a
you
little dive.
messaged him or what? You Facebook
Yeah, I
messaged
just
him and said,
no, I just texted him and said, "Hey,
I'm
I'm
gonna be in town."
Going to be in town. If you're available, I'd love to get together.
Yeah, and where'd you
And
go?
we met. It was the Red Door, this little dive bar. He had never heard of it.
He had never heard of it, or you had never heard of it?
Oh, either of us. But
Oh, okay.
my friend John recommended it, and it's kind of like a speakeasy thing because it's behind a sports bar.
Okay, I've been to a
You-
speakeasy, and yeah, it's a thing now.
Yeah, to go in through the alley,
Okay.
not the street. So
Right.
it is literally a red door with a little light above it. It doesn't look like anything. Yeah, we just sat and had lovely chat, had some drinks, had some food.
Nice.
Yep, yeah, it was a lovely time.
I'm jealous.
Always great to see Dino.
Yes, I'm jealous. I'm going to LA in a few days, and I can't imagine because I'm not going anywhere near where I'm not going anywhere.
You're just
I'm
staying
not
at the
going to
hotel?
ask him to come where I am.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Was
great.
it fun to see him?
Always good to see
Well, I can't
Dino.
imagine
Yeah,
he'd be
I mean,
not fun.
I love hanging out with Dino.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really glad that
Yep.
happened. So the next thing is systolic pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got the according to the Tychos certified blood pressure
Well, I
monitor.
had something about Tychos. Did you look that up? I didn't. I didn't put it. I didn't put it.
I
here.
didn't. I was going to. and
I looked
think
it up, and what I found was Tychos is a company that makes blood pressure cuffs. They make blood pressure measurements.
that's
For
that.
some reason, that's fascinating to me. How many years has it been now? I don't know.
Well, this is
80?
38. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they did then. That's what they do now. They're the best at that.
According to this, in watching it, from what I can read, the systolic is over 300 because it goes off the chart.
Right. It's just stop. They don't measure
They
beyond
don't,
that.
and the diastolic is over 220.
Right. The normal
Yep.
systolic is below 120.
Yep.
Elevated is 120 to 129.
Yeah.
Stage 1 high blood pressure, also called hypertension, is 130 to 139. Stage 2 hypertension is 140 or more. Hypertensive crisis, it says 180 or more. Call 911. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Diastolic, normal is lower than 80. Stage 1 hypertension is 80 to 89. Stage 2 hypertension is 90 or more. Hypertensive crisis is 120 or more. Call 911. For
That's what
some
I said.
reason,
I said the monster is in serious danger of having a heart attack or stroke and needs immediate attention.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe he had a stroke. I didn't even think about that. Maybe that's what's happened, is that he's had a
He's had
stroke.
a stroke because that's. I mean, he says 3 times normal. It's not quite 3 times normal, but it's way off the chart.
You know, I noticed that too. That's a good point. It isn't quite, but it's close enough.
It's
That's
still
more or
fucking
less
awful.
right. Yeah, it's still really bad, and it doesn't. I don't. What I love about it is I don't know why this is true about him. Like blood pressure, or for some reason I feel like just measuring someone's pulse. If you measure the pulse of a mouse and a human and an elephant, We all know how that works,
Yeah.
right? It's slower for an elephant. Whatever. But blood pressure, I just have no idea why this would matter. Like, he's big, but and he's also super strong. So I guess the idea is his
blood pressure. He's just
super fast. Everything's super awesome.
Yeah, I think it's this film trying to. It's sort of creating the legend of Frankenstein, the legend of the monster, more so than any sort of story about him, really. It's more of inflating him into this. Well, he says it at the end of the minute.
Well, you've fallen into my trap, actually. Let's not go to the end of the minute. It's a monster fan scene.
Yeah.
He should measure his height. We should get all of this detail.
All his vitals,
we should get all this data. We should get
in.
height, weight, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, hit points. He should speculate about whether he could beat up Dracula or the Mummy. It should all be laid out in this scene.
It's
this is the thing,
what it's doing. I think this is where
I worry about this podcast. I worry, Tom, about this podcast, and I worry when we're going to get together and record every time. I worry that you're like, I don't know, this fucking movie sucks, and then I'm going to have to be the guy defending it, and that hasn't happened. So we're doing good. Yeah. But I just think it took me a while to come up with this idea. I really love this shit. This scene, this minute's fucking great because I'm a nerd, and it's like nerds made it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what about his
blood
systolic
like
will be 3,000, and his what is it? His diastolic is over. So he doesn't ever even say the numbers.
No, but if you watch the needle,
so yeah, when you say it's 3 times, it could be 80 times.
Yeah,
for some reason, high blood pressure is a big part of it, and now we've got to try and work all this in. This kind of shit happens in all IPs, as they call them now. It's the same thing with the Wolfman, right?
Yeah.
The little rhyme, the little poem has to change because we're adding to the mythos,
retconning all this stuff.
And Frankenstein's monster gets short shrift where that's concerned, right? Yeah. I don't feel like we get a lot of this. No. And this is it. This is it happening right now.
Yeah.
You've got to go, oh, I can't believe it. Look at this. Over 300 systolic.
Yeah.
Or no, it is systolic. Yeah. It's perfect. I love it. So you're shaking your head.
No, I
hate Frankenstein.
No. I think it's
going forward. It's all mythos, right? He's a superhero.
It is. He's become exactly. That's it. He's become, super. Well, he says
next week.
He says they said.
So here's, I guess, how I feel about that. Knowing where it goes. Okay, I guess there's 2 ways to look at it. Knowing where it goes, you can either look to this and say this is where it all fell apart, which I think is where some people look at Son of Frankenstein, including,
me.
Should be said, Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff definitely felt that way. Can you imagine him lying there like, what the hell am
over
I doing?
300, huh? All right, when do I get my next cigarette? Are you sure I can't smoke during this?
Yeah.
You can either look at it that way, or you can look at it and say, we already know where it goes. This is the fun of it. If there's anything fun about it, this is the fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the last hurrah for sure. Till 1948. We all know it's downhill from here for a while.
Well,
in terms of Frankenstein films.
Well, I guess I would argue that's probably not true. What I'm talking about is the monster being this sort of superhero that has all this weird powers. I think actually Ghost does some work to alleviate that. He becomes a bit of a character actually in that. He has some character in that film.
Despite the actor's best efforts, he does have some character, yeah.
Man, the Lon Chaney Jr. hate. You like him as a...
I think it was Larry Talbot. He's great.
Larry Talbot.
Yeah. Then we dissolve to the monster with a CPAP machine strapped to his face, breathing heavily.
He's got COVID. There's no question.
He's...
Yeah.
Well, and,
it's trouble.
As a lifelong smoker, later in life, Karloff would have one of these things on all the time.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Wow.
Yeah.
If that machine was actually operating, Rathbone was like, yeesh.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah, because, I mean, he was literally down to a half a lung towards the end of his life.
They do these like charts that they'll put out on, I don't know, Twitter or whatever, saying when you quit smoking, within 1 week you get your sense of smell back. When 2 weeks you get this, 3 months you get this, a year you get this, whatever. There's all these charts showing all that. It is very much that. Yeah. If Boris Karloff would have quit this on this day, he would have had a better life.
Well, certainly.
Going forward. And that day probably wasn't good. He was probably already starting to see some real
I'm sure, yeah.
lung issues.
Yeah.
It's all make-believe, and I'm sure it wasn't even hooked up right. But it is weird to see him in this thing.
Big, giant thing on his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's all he could contribute to the film. No.
He's acting.
We'll see great stuff later.
He's at least acting here. He started...
He's acting like a guy breathing.
Yep. Definite hyperpituitary.
Which is how you measure that. Everybody knows the way you measure hyperpituitary
is by breathing.
By the lungs.
Yeah.
Or the breathing.
Yeah. Minus 65.
Minus 65?
Yeah.
Well, that accounts for his great size.
Well, do you know what a pituitary gland is?
I do, but what do you got?
It's just a small, like the size of a bean or a pea at the base of your brain.
Right. And you're pointing the back of your head.
Yeah.
But it's sort of in the middle.
Sort of in the middle, but I can't. All right. Well,
that doesn't help.
No. See, secretes hormones for growth, metabolism, blood pressure. So see 300 over 220. Sexual maturation and functionality. So if he's a hyperpituitary, he is the best swordsman in Hollywood.
I didn't think about that. Sure. Exactly. Now I got nothing.
He's got an enormous Schwanzstücker.
Schwanzstücker. That's what he's saying. No, when the pituitary gland is overactive or hyperpituitary.
Yeah.
Like say minus 65. I don't know what that number is.
That number is bullshit. I tried to find something that doesn't mean anything.
But say about minus 65. It secretes excessive amounts of some hormones. Usually, this is I found interesting, due to the presence of a benign non-cancerous tumor. What was the other one? Osteodermia of the brow or whatever the fuck. There's reason I think to think that his head is just full of tumors. That what they're trying to say is everything's just a bunch. No, but non-cancerous. Or cancerous. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. He's dead.
It's not
so it doesn't
a
really
tumor.
matter. He's a dead guy that's been brought back to life and is now in a coma. I'm not particularly concerned about his cancer, but he's got a lot of tumors in his head. The idea is, and maybe that can be a thing. He's just put together in such a way that he's just full of tumors, and that's causing this pituitary problem.
Oh well, I mean, hyperpituitary can cause like gigantism,
and
acromegaly is another.
Yeah, this is perfect. We're on the same page. The disorders can include. Well, here's my favorite one. If you can have a favorite one. Cushing's syndrome, which of course has nothing to do with the Cushing you're thinking of, who played Doctor Who in the film Doctor Who and the Daleks, or the
Daleks,
then played
whatever.
in the film Dalek Invasion Earth,
is
2150
okay.
AD. But what'd you call it?
Acromegaly.
Oh, I love it.
It's what Rondo Hatton had. It's why he looked that way.
Right, and that can cause so being tall or being gigantism. That's a thing that happens when you're a youth.
Yeah,
you get hyperpituitary when you're younger and you're growing and you grow. But when you get it as an adult, it can be
disfiguring,
including jaw and brow may stick out, which he has that.
He has
I
that.
Guess. He's got a little bit of that. So I guess that's all related in some way. Here's the problem with all of this. The monster didn't grow up.
No.
He wasn't ever a kid, and he has never grown at all.
Nope.
Unless we're assuming he did, because he is a little bigger than he used to be. So maybe, I guess.
So in the intervening...
It's all really dumb.
There you go. Thank you.
But we have to assume this is all part of the mythos now.
I guess, he says, well, that accounts for his great size. And I said, well, that and the size of all the various body parts that Henry put together has a little something to do with it, because he was pretty big in the first two films.
Young Frankenstein does a better job of handling all this, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, it does.
He just makes him big.
Yeah.
Well, we've already referenced it a second ago.
He even quotes from Mary Shelley in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, that's right. What is it?
Due to the size of the parts or the number of parts or whatever, that I chose to go big or go home to make it easy.
So Mary Shelley.
Yeah, you could hear her
go
say,
big or go home.
I can just picture her saying that.
Yeah, there's a glass display case behind Igor in this minute when he's talking about this, and it's just full of stuff. But it just looks exactly like my sister's a nerd, and she has a glass display case when you come in the front door, where she has all her DC universe, like Batman, Superman, that kind of thing, figures. It's a long history of nerdism.
Okay, yeah, I guess so.
We have nerdism. Because
I was definitely the misfit.
Yeah, well, I was too. I don't know where my sister sister got it from. When we were kids, we would all go to the pop shop.
Yeah.
The pop shop was a great place to go and get pop because we all drank pop because we were fucking fucked up in the 70s. And they had a great comics rack.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I thought they did. It was just a regular old rack. It was one rack and you spin it around. It was like
rack,
good one, good one, good one. It was just all good.
Yeah.
And my sister had no interest in comic books. So we'd go home and all the boys in the family would read all these comics. But my sister, as an adult, has become this amazing comics fan. So she could tell you anything about DC Comics.
Really?
And I couldn't tell you almost anything about DC Comics because I was a Marvel kid. You have no interest in either?
No, that's not the case. I straddled both. It's like Universal versus Hammer. Can you like both? Sure. I would pick and choose. You made a face, but
I mean, I just have a side on that.
well, certainly people do, but I tend not to think that way.
Yeah.
It's Karloff versus Lugosi. You can like them both for different reasons.
So you feel that way about Marvel and DC?
Yeah, there are certain aspects of Marvel that I like, certain things from DC that I like. I like Batman a lot.
Yeah.
Bear in mind now, my image of Batman is still Adam West because that's what got me interested in the first place.
Yeah. I found it
So
fascinating.
all these like uber dark, broody, I'm sick to fucking death of it.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, that's DC. Right now,
Yeah.
DC is locked onto that, and they're not letting
they're
go.
not gonna, and it just bores me. Well, here's where we get the weird close-up of Lugosi just sort of looking like he was hit in the head. He's just staring, mouth agape at nothing.
Yeah, it's weird.
He just
it almost becomes like an art film. Like it's
like one of the French New Wave.
It's like
it's Godard took over.
Well, I was gonna, yes. Or who's the guy who did? Is it La Ventura? Well, anyway, you know even better. What's the What's the one from the 20s where she's oh Christ, I'm so bad at podcasting. Well, she makes it starts with it's Joan of Arc.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of looks like that one. The Passion of, or what is it called?
Yeah, something like that.
Passion of Joan of Arc? It's got to be under P up here somewhere.
Yeah.
Passion of Joan of Arc.
Yeah, I think that's
it's like that. Yeah, it's like an art film where there's no only a fool would look at it and go, "We're trying to represent reality here."
Strict continuity and reality. Yeah,
we're being artistic here. It's like remember Creepshow, where suddenly they'd show a character and the background would just be like flashing red lights and shit.
Yeah.
It's like that to me. It really does look like an art film in that sense. He does.
I don't think it's on purpose that way.
Okay.
I don't think
I can't really.
Roland V. Lee
I can't really
like,
defend myself on that front.
We're going to make an art film at this point.
I can't defend myself on that front. But I do think I will say this. I do like that Igor, and it's Igor we're talking about here. There's some stuff with Benson, but it's mainly Igor.
No, Igor is the main offender here.
I think Igor is the witness here. Igor's the owl, and Igor has, as we talked about last week, disappointment. I can't remember what the three different Igors are.
It was
horror. Damn it!
Concern. It was like concern and anger,
worried, disapproving, and in a trance.
That's it. Here he's in a trance.
And we've reached trance level Igor. It's this third wave.
Because it cuts from the close up to a wide shot, and he's still doing it.
Yes.
He's just staring off at nothing.
Yeah, it's madness. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way he's been asked to do this. No. The only explanation I can think practically is that it's 2 a.m. and they've been shooting this scene for fucking 16 hours.
Christmas Eve at 2 a.m. and they fucking want to go home.
It's just
been
like,
shooting this thing.
Man told me to look here.
4 months now.
Because he's not looking at anything or pretending to look at anything.
He's glazed over and he's late for his morphine and Demerol. So that's later. No,
that's later. Oh, okay. All right. Well, so it's not that.
I'm not sure about that, but I think it's.
But later. I do think that while it's probably true, like you said, it's not intentional. It does contribute to this. What's the film? Well, just I guess any art film. But I was going to say, what's the one where? God damn it! I'm so bad at podcasting. It starts with a G, maybe. What's the one where they? No, it starts with a C. God damn it!
That narrows it down. Thanks.
This is such a bad podcast now.
You've just made. I'm swearing.
Somebody made like a shitty. Some guy who made shitty industrial films made this film in 1968 that was a horror film, and it just became this art masterpiece, and then he never made another film again. You don't know what I'm talking about?
You're not talking about like It'd be like a Larry Buchanan because he made tons of films.
No, this guy made like one film.
One film.
And it's a Criterion. And it was an old Criterion. They've released it several times. It either starts with a C or a G.
So anybody listening who's still there or hasn't left completely by now, if you can think of the title, please let us know.
God damn it.
I'm at a loss now.
Really? You don't know what I'm talking about? It's a lady. A lady gets in her car and she goes for a drive and she crashes into the thing. And
Oh, you're talking about Carnival of Souls.
Carnival of Souls.
Jesus Christ.
It's got a Carnival of Souls aspect to it where you look at it and you go, this isn't...
Maybe.
This isn't a film you watch as a thing happening. It's an art film. It's a mood.
For 2 shots.
Actually,
just these 2 shots, though.
Yes. Actually, that's a thing people say on the internet. This is my kids would probably say this, or your kids. Lugosi is a mood. That's an actual sentence in English now.
Oh, is it?
And that's what's happening here.
So
it's a mood.
Mood has become a noun.
Yeah.
I weep.
Well, mood is a noun.
But
in fact, it only is a noun.
I guess.
It's just a different noun.
Okay,
now.
different. Okay, it's a physical object.
But yeah. It's a physical you've convinced me that I'm right on this now. Lugosi, Igor is a mood.
Okay.
And the mood is asleep. Wolf starts doing Morse code. There's just no idea
what he's doing.
Whatsoever what the fuck's going on.
Sending a telegram back home.
Yeah, there's
Having
no
a great time in Transylvania. Wish you were here.
Transylvania.
Or whatever.
Yeah, well, he's sending it to Utah. Where was he, a professor or whatever?
We don't know. Yeah.
He grew up in the U.S.?
And apparently, no human heart could possibly function like that, especially in his condition.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Especially in his condition, because every time he says that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He's in a condition. He's not just asleep. He's really got an actual medical emergency happening. He's all fucked up. Because that's not how Wolf portrays the situation.
No,
he's not really.
He's not like
and maybe that, and in a way, that's part of what Igor's reaction is okay, calm down. Can you just fix him now? Because you're just collecting information, which I'm a big proponent of that.
Oh yeah.
I think in any situation, it's a good idea to try and get a sense of what's going on. But Wolf is way too excited, and Igor's like, okay, but
he
I need him to go
attention.
knock off the burgomaster. That would be more my.
If you could
help me with that part.
To that.
What's with the monster's brow? There's a spot where he's
I was gonna
laying
say,
down.
Where the makeup looks really weird.
There's a really weird spot around. Yeah, don't say along here because it's an audio podcast.
Along the brow line, underneath
the eyebrows,
where it looks to me, it's where the rubber of the headpiece meets Karloff's face.
Okay,
and it's all wrinkled up. It looks like a bottle cap.
Yeah, it does. I was going to say it looks like Jack Pierce put his fingers in there by mistake and pressed his fingers in. But you're right. That's what it is. It's
just
fucked up.
Weird.
It's bad. And it doesn't look like that in other shots.
No, it's just this one angle where
they left it like that. Yeah. It's the shot where you can see that.
Kind of looking up at
pointing right at that. And I think Igor's to the right on that one.
It's odd because it never looks that bad in this film again. It's just that one shot.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe because he had to do 2 makeups. I know Pierce tended to focus on Igor because his really, really strong point was the hair work.
Okay.
For Pierce. So I'm sure he focused on Igor. So then Otto Lederer, his assistant, probably did up Karloff.
Fucking Otto Lederer.
But even still, he does great work elsewhere, so I don't know why this one particular shot looks so shitty.
I now have a theory, right? Why is Lugosi staring off in a trance like they've been doing this for 16 hours? Why does Karloff...
Because they've been doing this for 16 hours.
Maybe they've been doing this for 16 hours, and maybe he even had to take it off and they slapped it back on.
Or it was coming loose and they just...
Coming loose. That makes more sense, actually, because you sweat in it.
Spirit gum and
then paste it on there.
Those are literally the finger...
Those are actual fingerprints of where he pressed
pushed it on, yeah.
And he went, it'll be fine, nobody will see this, even though it is the center,
focus of the shot.
Focus of the shot. Okay.
No human heart could possibly beat like that.
Well, it's beating at over 250 to the minute.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird way of saying that. You would just say...
Normal is around 60 to 100 times a minute.
You would say it's beating 250 times per minute. You wouldn't say it's beating at... But maybe that's a British thing.
could be. Everyone seems to have sort of forgotten that Henry built this body from human parts.
Okay.
Because, he's talking about it like it's some sort of alien thing, and it's not. It's human being assembled from other human beings. So to say no human heart could beat like that, it started as a human heart. Now, I suppose the electricity and all this stuff maybe jolted it up, but it's still a human heart.
So I go back and forth on this. While watching these minutes, it's impossible to avoid thinking about this. This concept that the monster's got all this crazy conditions or whatever that make him he says it next minute, I think, but superhuman. The monster in the novel, I think that's just certainly true. The monster in the original novel is considered superhuman.
Yeah.
The monster that Una O'Connor encounters climbing out of the wreckage of the windmill is a big old monster, and he rampages and does all kinds of stuff because he's a big monster, and anybody that sees him and anybody that encounters him knows that he's a big old fucking superhuman monster. He is. It's just that I feel like that's a natural progression. Or I shouldn't say natural progression because it didn't have to go down the way it did. But we've reached this point now. The monster in the first film, I don't feel like you have to read it that way at all.
Right.
The only thing that's weird about him is that he shouldn't exist at all, and then that brain thing.
And he looks,
and he's ugly. Yeah, he's an ugly monster. But the guy in Bride of Frankenstein is a superhuman brute that nobody can stop. He's unstoppable.
Well, Henry,
you can shoot him. Well, we'll get there.
But Henry says in Frankenstein that he has the strength of 10 men.
Right. There you go.
I'm not sure what scale he used to measure that, how he determined that, unless
I don't know. All I can think of is how easy it was for Chaska's own Edward Van Sloan to get a hypodermic in his back. It didn't seem all that hard.
It didn't seem like it was that difficult. Yeah. Anyway.
But I guess like anything, it's like Superman, right? Superman used to be able to leap a tall building with a single bound.
Now he can fly between galaxies. Backwards,
yeah. By the time he gets to 78, he can turn time backwards.
Turn time back, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same idea.
I guess so. It's, well, like I said, this is sort of the legend of Frankenstein monster.
And this is what I'm talking about. It's like, for a fan, this is the movie I would make. I'm not in any way trying to pretend that I would make a good movie or good anything.
Then you nailed it.
Yeah, could be. Maybe that's why, and this is something I've really thought about, is I think maybe this is why I'm more attracted to this movie still to this day than some people. And you, Dino, Wallace, a lot of people. Barsky and I are on the same page, Robert. But I don't know. Well, Felicity's on your side. It seems to be about 50-50. I can name people on either side.
It is kind of a polarizing film.
It seems to be a bit polarizing. I think the one thing that's great about it is it's so well made that we can all agree it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just not
a great movie.
It's not your favorite or whatever. Whereas I lean more on that side because I think all this stuff is great. All this pituitary minus 65 shit. It's fucking great.
End of the day, you're saying that this is a better film than Bride of Frankenstein.
No, but I might like it more.
Okay.
Yeah. Today I do. Ask me again tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I've discovered that. We talk about The Raven. And
the other problem is we've set ourselves this task. So now we've got to suffer through the issue of what comes along with that. Mm-hmm. We've suffered through these films.
Yeah.
So now I don't like any of them.
Well, I will say I don't choose to watch them recreationally anymore.
I've tried, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's harder. So you ask me, is this better than Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman? Maybe that's an easier question.
Well, I would say yes. This is a better film.
Is this the best of what's left?
Okay.
I just thought of the answer. The answer is no.
No, it's not.
There's one.
There's one that's better.
We're really lucky in that on a minute by minute basis that we're going to end on
with such a high note.
Point.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we had to end on House of Dracula, it would be kind of sad.
Again.
Although I do like it. I mean, I like it I've said it before.
You should have brought some edibles back from California. If you had, you could eat some of those and watch House of Dracula and see the film that I've seen.
It's a brilliant film.
Yeah, I think it's a fever dream.
It absolutely is. And I think they're fun. They're.
I think we're gonna really climb. It's gonna go Ghost. I think we initially both worried about Ghost, and maybe we'll have Dino on to explain why he likes it so much. But then
I've watched it again since we started, and there is stuff to appreciate.
There's a lot of stuff to appreciate.
The brevity of it is one.
How long is it? 70?
It's like 70.
Okay, that's good. What's the who's Wolf's brother?
Oh, Cedric Hardwicke.
Yeah, he's
not
a fucking
good.
disaster.
He just sleepwepwalks through it.
He sleepwalks through
But
it. And they give him an extra role at one point. He talks to himself.
Yeah,
It's awful.
Atwill is great.
That's true.
You know, and Lugosi's in it as Igor.
Yes, good point.
Cheney.
Minute by minute, we might have fun poking fun at Cheney doing that role.
I think so.
Yeah, we might lose listeners next season. but because, like I said, as soon as that movie's over, we become more or less a Wolfman podcast, and we're going to say nothing but good things about
him. Yeah.
So suffer through the next film with us.
Yep.
All right.
That's all I got.
It's a great movie. It's called Son of Frankenstein. It's available on Blu-ray, just regular Blu-ray. It's not available on 4K.
No.
Buy that.
Did you get the 4K thing yet?
Yeah, I have the 4K box set.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything
to play. Can you watch
play.
it? No.
I have anything to play.
Okay.
But I did talk to Robert about it. He asked me, did you get it? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I've ripped it. He's going to take the Dracula from that and use the soundtrack from, the soundtrack that has the music.
The French one?
Yeah, he's going to put that on there.
Okay.
So Robert loves to do that shit.
So is he able to separate the dialogue from the music?
No, we're going to use the soundtrack. Okay, so, well, no, I don't think so. What do you mean?
Well, what are you talking about?
The music, I mean, that French.
The Philip Glass or the French?
Oh, it's in French, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in French.
No, they played it on Svengoolie. There's a version that's in English that has that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh.
I even uploaded it to Google Drive. I'll send you the
send
link.
me a link. Yeah,
Svengoolie shows it. He's shown it at least twice.
Oh, I guess it's Dracula.
And I watched a little bit of it. I'm like, well, that is interesting.
It might help because God knows it needs it.
What I thought was interesting was
the Philip Glass one doesn't help at all.
I don't hate the Philip Glass.
It makes it even duller because it's just that same monotonous.
Yeah, I don't hate it. He's trying for something very specific, and I think it's a failure. But I don't hate it. It's not. Yeah, it's not a success.
No.
But when I skipped through the one that I think was from the 30s, even. Right, the French one.
Yeah.
Like the initial scene where he's with Renfield and they're talking about contracts and all that. I don't think there's any music in that. Like it's subtle.
Well, some scenes don't need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Bride
I
of
think
Frankenstein.
It's well done.
Bride of Frankenstein isn't wall-to-wall music either.
Bride of Frankenstein is wall-to-wall music.
No.
Yeah, it is.
There are scenes without music.
It's very few. It seems like there's two. That's what I'm saying about it. Is I think there's a lot of music in that one.
Well, you could say the exact same thing about this.
Yes, but I think it plays differently because the music adds to.
Well, the music is desperately trying to help scenes where nothing's happening seem interesting.
When you became this, why are you so adamant that you need movies to be so fast-paced and full of action?
I like slow movies. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is one of my favorite movies. It takes an hour before the plot finally goes into long scenes.
A lot of music in those.
Yeah.
Great music. Though.
Yeah, but it's just the pacing is wrong. It's slow in the wrong places. It's next week is a perfect example of why the pacing doesn't work.
Come back next week for Tom's theory on what's wrong with Son of Frankenstein, where I seek to defend the movie Son of Frankenstein. Follow us on Instagram.